Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, I am going to be here, available for your questions. Anything homeschooling, anything homeschool mama self-care related, ask and I'll see if I can't answer or find a resource that can. But first, I want to introduce you to the first segment, which is called Show and Tell, because it's been a while since I've been in school. And the first thing I want to introduce you to is a series of books that I found really helpful in my homeschool journey. In the first 2 years before I even started homeschooling, I did a lot of reading about homeschooling. Kind of sounds like my story with parenting as well. So the first book I'm going to introduce you to is this one. It's called Teach Your Own by John Holt and Pat Ferenga. John Holt is known to be the father of the unschool movement. He was a 30-some-year school teacher who has written many books about watching kids learn. I picked up a book in Fort St. John, British Columbia, when we were up there for a short stint and in the library, and it was titled How Children Fail. It was a book about learning and what this author, John Holt, found in his classroom, how he observed children engaging math concepts in his classroom. It was though you were actually in the classroom with him and could see how some kids really loved the stuff, some kids understood it today but not tomorrow, all the different aspects with all the different kids on how they learned. That one book got me interested in pretty much anything he wrote afterwards. And Teach Your Own is one of those really easily accessible kind of books that really engage you in all sorts of different topics about how you might understand homeschooling or learning at home with your kids. So that's the first thing I want to do as a show and tell today, but I can't resist. Can you hear what's going on in the background? It really is what it sounds like. This isn't Easter. It's June 24th, and I have turned my homeschool room into a little chicken coop. Yep, this is how homeschool rolls. Yes, she doesn't really want me to pick her up. Do you see that? This is a Cornish rock. This is my 4th batch of chickens that I'm raising. But these chickens are meat birds, so one day this one might be Sizzle. The kids named one of them Sizzle. I try to encourage them not to name them because these are indeed going to be a roast chicken someday on our table. Sweet as they are. So, introduction to my homeschool project, a little show and tell. Never been happier to be back. So in this segment, I'm going to ask, what kind of questions do you have? And since my intention was to live stream today, and then I discovered that I didn't have the technology to live stream, I threw up a Zoom link and I'm waiting for anybody to join. But I am going to quickly record a little video and share with you a conversation that I had today with a homeschool mom who has been doing this for a long time. She has 6 daughters. She's a single mom of 6 daughters, and her blog is called Raising Royalty. Perfect for her 6 princesses. Very fascinating conversation with her about how to get alone time. So if she can get alone time, she says, then other people can get alone time. And wouldn't you agree? This gal has all sorts of projects on the go. She has her own full-time business at home and has had that for many years. She's a whiz at marketing. She's a whiz at all things SEO and everything that you need to know to develop a blog. And she has her own blog as well. And she's been sharing her very interesting story around a few different podcasts. And you will hear from her next week. But our discussion was all over the place, as I usually, that is my experience, that I like to hang out with people. I like to hear their stories. I'm fascinated by their stories, and I always want to learn from them. And I have yet to have a guest I think this would be my 8th episode. I have yet to have a guest that I haven't learned something truly, practically, for my actual in-the-moment experience. And from this gal, I learned a ton. What I can share with you about Homeschool Overwhelm is that we have to expect it. We have to anticipate that there are going to be times where we're either overwhelmed with the idea of choosing curriculum, or we're just overwhelmed with the number of places we have to drive. We might be overwhelmed with the fact that the kids want to eat again and we have another meal to prepare. Or maybe we're overwhelmed by all the questions that we field from the general public. Certainly, we can be overwhelmed by all the activities that are required or that we feel are required to provide for our children for their academic program. Overwhelm is easy as a homeschool parent. So what to do about overwhelm? Well, we talked about how we frame things. I know from Dr. Daniel Amen, learned 3 questions that are really a pivotal aspect of the book that I'm about to release, Homeschool Mama Self-Care, Thrive, Not Just Survive. And they are these 3 questions. When we're feeling an uncomfortable feeling, first question is what I'm feeling true? Second question is, am I 100% certain it's true? Because I think most times when we feel something, we think, well, of course it's true. But really, second question follows quickly when you have to answer, is it 100% true? Instinctively, yeah, we feel like, of course it's true. But we also have friends or family members or people that we chat with that might hear that story and its perspective with their experience of it is different. Their perspective of it is different. The reaction to it is different. So is our feeling related to that uncomfortable feeling? Is it true? 100% true? What if there is an alternative? What if there's a different way to think about it? That would lead me to the third question. If there is another way to think about it, what might be the natural consequence to thinking about that scenario in a different way? It can seriously alter the course of action that we take. And then, of course, how someone responds to us, and it keeps going. So when we're feeling overwhelmed, I know I've asked the question, is it true? Do I have a reason to be overwhelmed? What's the reason that I'm overwhelmed? Am I overwhelmed because I have to get this curriculum done by 3:30 so that we can go to town and we can go to soccer practice or a youth group or whatever? It has to get done. My kid has to sit at the table, has to finish those 3 pages of math, has to finish that, etc., until it's all completed. But I also have things I have to pack into the car. I have to make sure I've got the mail ready to go. I've got to have all the meals. We have to be out for the entire evening, so we have to have food prep for that. And I'm going, I can't do all of this. Do you have to? Do you have to do all of this? Are you 100% certain that you have to do all of this? If you didn't, could you maybe change things up a bit? If you thought about it differently, that maybe you're just doing too many activities. Maybe your expectations of their academic work in the day is too much. So the reality is, there is a different way to spin it. If you really did tell yourself 1 activity per child is enough, which I might add is not actually how I approach it, but it sounds like a really good idea. If you really did decide that maybe your approach is too great expectations, then maybe the natural consequence would be reasonable. You'd be able to lighten your load, and you'd be able to tell yourself, hey, I'm doing a lot. The kids are doing a lot of extracurriculars. They're learning a ton, even if they don't finish 3 pages of math. It's all about perspective. By the way, that was my take about the discussion on overwhelm. Sarah had a different perception of that discussion, and it was a great one too. So in that section, I would usually be sharing with you a frequently asked question, like how to handle overwhelm, but you can ask whatever you want. You can put it down below, and I will make sure to answer it next Wednesday. So I'm going to close for now, but I just want to say thanks for joining me. And next week, Bring your glass of sangria or an iced cappuccino. Today we might need hot tea. Can you hear the thunder and the rain? Nope, too many chicks. Anyways, I hope you have a great week and that you too can turn your challenges into your charms.